Hi, everybody. Analisa Six here with the Lady of Leisure and the Sober Curator to bring you the December 2024 horoscope for the zodiac sign of Gemini for sun and rising placements. Hello, it's going to be December on Sunday. I'm actually getting these videos out on time. I can't believe it. Welcome to Sagittarius season. We're in the middle of Sagittarius season, and Sagittarius is the exact opposite to your sign, Gemini. So Gemini is the mutable air sign of the zodiac, and Sagittarius is the mutable fire sign of the zodiac. So in the horoscope, you guys are directly opposite. So this is also considered to be your half birthday time. And depending on what you have going on in your personal natal chart, this can be a difficult time. Some people, if they lack a lot of the sign that is opposing them, that's opposite of them, that pull into the opposite can feel really discombobulating, and you might feel kind of like an adverse reaction to the energy in the air. But if you're somebody that also has a lot of Sagittarius energy, you're Gemini and Sagittarius dominant, then this time of year you might be feeling fed in certain ways depending on your relationship to that opposing energy. So for example, if your sun is in Gemini but you have Sag moon or Sag rising or a lot of planets in Sagittarius, Sagittarius season might feel like it's good for you in some aspects. Where Sagittarius hits for the Gemini horoscope is the house that rules relationships. So the seventh house in the chart is the house that's connected to partnerships of all kinds, romantic partnerships, best friend kind of relationships, and also any kind of partnership dynamic we might have with someone that we work with, like a business partnership or a colleague that we're super close with. And so when the sun is passing through this area of the horoscope, it highlights all of those themes and pulls us more into that part of our lives. And it also can bring a lot of energy there and make us feel more, kind of spiritually fed by those dynamics. Another thing that we have going on in December in this area of your chart is Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius. So the Mercury retrograde started, I believe, at 22 degrees of Sagittarius last month. And so we will spend the first 2 weeks of December with Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius, and it's going to go all the way back to 6 degrees before stationing direct on the 15th. And so having Mercury retrograde in the area of the chart that also rules partnership and relationships, you're more prone to having communication challenges in partnership or relationship dynamics. So, if you are unfamiliar with Mercury retrograde is supposed to be a time for growth around how we communicate and how we learn, how we perceive information, and how we're disseminating information. And Sagittarius is the sign of the seeker. It's the sign of knowledge, wisdom, also exploration, adventure. It can be a sign that's really drawn to avoiding reality and wanting to, kind of get out of the mundane and go seek new landscapes, literally and metaphorically. And in a relationship, when it's in when Sagittarius falls in that relationship house, values and belief systems, especially spiritual values and belief systems, come up a lot. And that might be something that comes up in relationships and how you're communicating the way that you feel or believe, certain things about the world. I'm recording this video on Thanksgiving, and, we think about the kind of differences that we all have around holidays like this in the United States. It's a very complicated holiday for a lot of people. And so there can be conflict in family dynamics with, a person or a significant other when you run into differences around that. So those are things that could come up, like values and belief systems in that way. Also, if there's different spiritual practices that, you do and somebody else doesn't. Also just the way that we believe things to be true, that can come up too, our perspectives on things. Also starting out the month, we're going to have a new moon, I believe, at 9 degrees of Sagittarius. Yeah, and that's starting on December 1st for East Coast. It starts the day before on November 30th for West Coast. But new moons are a great time for setting intentions. And so for you, this is a really positive time to set intentions, especially around communication, having Mercury retrograde here, but setting intentions around how you want to connect with others and what energy you want to bring into your life when it comes to partnership dynamics, since it is passing through that seventh house for you. And then also, what do you want to clear out, for yourself and make space for the coming month when it comes to relationships, partnerships specifically. And then the planet of relationship, partnership, Venus, is in the sign of Capricorn for the first week of December. And the area that that's passing through for you, she started in Capricorn, I believe, last month in November. This has been happening in your eighth house, which is the house that represents our relationship to shared resources, taxes, debts. It's also the house of sex and death and rebirth. It's the house Scorpio traditionally rules. It's also our connection to the occult. And wherever Venus is passing through, we experience good fortune. There's a lot of like positivity and kind of pushes us into those things in a harmonious way. We could also crave more connection sexually in a relationship. It's good for managing money, and especially in Capricorn, getting really practical about finances, especially when it comes to inheritance or debt or any kind of shared resources. Shared resources are when we have somebody that we live with or that we're married to or partnered with, or even a family member that we could be financially tied to, where we're sharing resources. So resources, food, money, shelter, like all of that kind of stuff. Those things come up during an eighth house transit. So Venus is going to be here for the first week of December, and then she's going to move into Aquarius on the 6th. Mars, we start out the month of December with Mars and Leo. Mars entered Leo last month, and we're going to have Mars and Leo off and on for quite a while. Mars has entered your third house of communication, which I discussed last month, which the third house is the house that Gemini traditionally rules. So, in the horoscope, Leo lives here, and Mars here can bring up conflict and communication dynamics. We think about the fact that you have Mercury retrograde happening in the seventh house of partnership. There's a lot to be worked out when it comes to different minds and different egos and different ideas and beliefs trying to assert themselves, and how we remain confident and kind of in a place of feeling like we can really express ourselves, but without that being overbearing or diminishing of somebody else's truth as well. That's kind of a balance that you're having to learn how to walk that line. And then Mars is going to station retrograde at 6 degrees on the same day that Venus enters Aquarius. And where Aquarius is in the horoscope chart for Gemini is the ninth house, which is the house Sagittarius traditionally rules. And this is the house that represents our relationship to values and beliefs, long distance travel. It can have a big emphasis on how we're learning and how we're perceiving information and spiritual wisdom. It's the house that publishing happens, and it's also the house of the law. And when Venus is here, we want to connect with a lot of those themes. We might feel like we want to get out of the mundane. We might want to travel. We might want to go explore other avenues. It's also a time where we might feel inclined to want to take some kind of educational program or teach. If we're in a position of teaching, then that could be really emphasized for us in terms of wanting to step more into that role. The ninth house kind of has a student teacher emphasis in it. The other thing, this is my little doggy that wants to come hang out. The other thing that we have going on that day is Neptune stationing direct in Pisces. So Neptune has been retrograde in the area of the horoscope that rules your career and your money. And now Neptune is going to be stationing direct. So if things have been a little bit wonky in your work life and you've been feeling like, you've been trying to move some stuff forward and it's not quite there. I mean, Saturn has been here for a while, and it's just Piscean energy, and trying to like ground into that can be challenging. It's really good for creative projects. It's really good for being of service and kind of being open to going with the flow and seeing what comes your way and really being open to opportunities. But when there's retrograde energy happening in a career house, it can kind of stifle the momentum and how we want to move things forward. And, the point of a retrograde, again, is for us to reflect, review, and reassess what it is we're doing. It slows things down a little bit so that we can make sure that the decisions we're making are really in alignment with the future that we want to cultivate. And Venus in the ninth house for the rest of November, it's really positive for you to lean into what drives you, what you value, how you want to like surround yourself with like-minded people. And, you know, are you making choices in your life that really are feeding the direction that you want to go in? And are you, maybe course correcting or changing your mind about some things? That's very in alignment with the retrograde energy. Jupiter is still retrograde in your sign of Gemini. It's been that way for a couple months now. That's happening in your first house, which is the house of identity. This transit is all about you expanding your sense of self and being open to seeing things from different perspectives, even though it's hard. You're going to get pushed into new territory that you're not necessarily feeling ready for. But, that's the fun part about astrology is even if we don't feel ready, the universe has wisdom about when it thinks we're ready for something versus our own timeline. So just try to trust in the wisdom of the universe and not, don't try to control or force things too much where it's just not working. The next shift of energy that we're going to have is on December 15th. We're going to have a full moon that happens on, it happens at 23 degrees of Gemini. So it's in the first house for you. We also have Mercury stationing direct in Sagittarius on this day. So it's a big day cosmically. And, it's happening in your sign. So a full moon is when the sun and the moon are opposite each other. And so the sun's going to be in the 7th house, which we talked about at the beginning of this video. But the moon is going to be in your first house, which is the house of identity. And so you're, really getting an opportunity to sit and reflect on who you are to yourself. What's your relationship to self? And whether or not you are seeing the people in your life, that 7th house relationship, partnership energy, really serving who you want to be and who you're trying to work towards in this next chapter of your life. There's a lot of reflection in December around, am I surrounded by the right people? Am I, in relationships that I like to be in? Who am I? How am I moving forward? What do I want to do with my life? Am I growing into the person that I want to be? All of those kinds of things come up. And full moons are a great time for releasing and letting go. And Mercury direct might kind of give you some insights on what needs to be moved through in your life. And, any communication conflict that comes up with anybody is here to teach you, kind of how to approach those things better. All right. And then the next shift is going to be the sun moving into Capricorn on the 21st. So we're going to have our winter solstice. And the Capricorn energy hits in that 8th house for you. So your 8th house is, highlighted for the rest of December. So those themes around sex, death, rebirth, taxes, debts, loans, shared resources, the sun comes through and highlights all of those things. It's a really good time to get, any taxes or financial kind of things put into order for yourself so that you can go into the new year feeling maybe just like you've got a handle on your shit. All right. And then after that, the next shift that we're going to have is a new moon at the very end of the month on December 30th at 9 degrees Capricorn. And this is happening in that same 8th house area. And so, again, new moons are a great time for setting intentions. So we just had the sun move into this area on the solstice. And now this new moon on the 30th is really asking us to be clear and intentional about what it is we want to call in and cultivate moving into 2025. Especially when it comes to shared resources. How do we relate to what we're building in our life with others and other people around us? And how are we managing all of that? And Capricorn's a very practical sign. So it's not so much about how we feel about it. It's how are we doing it? How are we getting things, kind of put together and pushed forward in a way that really supports us for the future that we're trying to manifest or create. All right, Gemini, I'm going to leave you there. I hope you all have a great entry into December. If you liked this video, please hit the like and subscribe button to get notified on when I post these. And I will see you all next year.